Beer Guys Radio, live in living color. It's November.
It is November.
It's November. Thanksgiving's coming up soon.
So soon.
We'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk Thanksgiving beers some, Sam. We'll put on a holiday table there. So I'll give you the warning there. We'll work that in. So.
I like to put my beer in a gravy boat on Thanksgiving and drink from that. Yeah.
Like a lambic basket, right?
It's like a
straight from the gravy boat.
Right. That's how I prefer to drink my beer.
As you do. Nate, we got his comment already. Let's say hey there before we jump on the radio. Get it going.
Yeah.
Steven, Pete, Steven. Happy holidays, sir. Thanks for joining us again. Cheers to Kettle Rock.
He's been waiting to pounce.
Good, man. Yeah. I love seeing Steven's smiling face here joining us.
That's right.
It's always a good time. Well, we're going to get going here. You have any questions, comments, please do leave them there, and we'll be back very soon to chat with you.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios. And this week, we're talking with Cosmic Eye Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, my two good friends and co-host. I've got Becky Smalls in the studio. Smalls, good to see you as always.
Good to see you guys, too.
Yeah, good stuff. We're back from Alaska.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have to hear some about Alaska beer. We also have Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Sam Riggins, the founder and brewer for Cosmic Eye Brewing. We're going to talk about rebranding, new beer series. Multiple series.
Yes,
exactly. Series. Knives and the Pour of Doom, Tim. Sam, thanks
awesome
for joining us.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
This sounds like a jam-packed show, Sam. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. I'm stoked to be on, man.
Good times, man.
It's good times. All kinds of fun
You know
stuff.
what? I'm going to go ahead and start with the interesting thing here. Or one of them. Everything's interesting, Brian.
Yes.
It's all interesting. But if you've listened to the show for a while, you've heard Brian and I talk about our passion for pocket knives. We're collectors. We have more than any sane human needs.
Correct.
And Sam, you and I actually ran into each other on an online knife forum.
Yeah, the best online knife forum. The
best,
Spyderco,
yes.
Millie, PM3 group. Yeah. It's really a great Facebook group, man. I love it.
It is a good, a lot of groups for specialty interest, including craft beer, can have arrogance. I'm going to use that word because it's a kind way to say it. But that's just a really nice, welcoming group there,
Yeah,
and,
it's great. Yeah.
I know it's active too, which is always nice.
Oh, yeah.
You get in somewhere, it's good to see the activity there.
Is it all Spyderco or just the PM3 or PM2?
It's the Millie PM2, PM3, but really all knives, right,
Okay.
Sam? With a Spyderco focus?
Yeah, the focus is the Spyderco range of the military, the paramilitary, and the P3. But man, it's basically all knives. I mean, anything goes in that group. It's really just the best knife group that I've come across online, and it's not even close.
It's good stuff. And daily buy, sell, trade threads that have every brand of knife in there and stuff, good thing. But I was scrolling through Facebook one day, just mindlessly scrolling, and I see a post of someone opening bags, fermenters in the back, bag of grain being open. And I really didn't notice it at first, but then I saw the Spyderco there and saw what group it was in. I was like, oh, we're crossing the streams here. I always love when that happens.
Crossing the stream.
Yeah. Now, Sam, we've talked a little bit. Brian and I have, compared to some of these guys, meager collections, but I have more knives than I need. Do you just have one or two knives or 1,400?
No, I probably have, I don't even know what I have. I have over 100, 120 knives.
Okay. There you go.
I probably buy something new every couple, 3 weeks.
All right.
Just depending on like what's coming out. And like I have a whole range of things that I buy. I do cool budget stuff that I think's neat. And really like kind of that like Spyderco Benchmade tier is kind of where I tap out.
The sweet spot, huh? Yeah.
I don't really, yeah, I mean, I get the custom knives. I understand the draw to them. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm not just a collector. I mean, I'm a user. Everything I get, I use. So, I don't have any, of the, we refer to them in the groups as safe queens, where you'll buy
I was
them
going to ask,
put them away. Nothing to me is precious. I mean, I get this stuff and I'll beat it to hell. Also, I am really passionate about maintaining my stuff, though. So even my knives I beat up are in good shape and taken care of. But really, once things start getting out of that, like kind of $250, $300 range is high for me. I'd rather get more stuff and check more stuff out than just have spending $1,000 a knife that I'm going to bring into the brewery and just beat up.
Right.
That's crazy talk.
Well, that's
but yeah,
the thing
I do folders and fixed blades too. I've got a big thing for small fixed blades. I carry a folder every day and I carry a fixed blade every day.
I don't think, for those that don't know knives, and we promise not to spend the whole show talking about knives,
not all of it,
not the whole show talking about knives, but
that's not what you said when you contacted me.
I did. I said, let's talk about Spideys and beer. Yes. Hops and Spideys.
Knife Guys Radio.
That's it. But for those that don't know knives, just a little insight, $1,000 knives are not an uncommon thing. I mean, there's several brands that have models right at $1,000 and several as well, $3,500, $4,000 for
4 or 5.
So
yeah, 4 or 5 grand. Yeah.
I like to go to the websites that let you sort by price and just pick a brand and most expensive down and see what they got. And it might not surprise you that all of the really spendy ones typically have a designer name attached to them. So the quality of the blade theoretically would be high, but you're paying the designer, that sort of thing. So
something I noticed, Sam, that I think's funny is when you cross into like the crazy prices, $4,000 or $5,000. You could set a $5,000 knife next to a $6 gas station knife, and you'd be hard to tell them apart. So it's like they're right there. It's like the designs are the same.
Definitely some Mall Ninja influence at that
little
top
Mall Ninja
end.
there.
Yeah. Well, and I've had the opportunity to handle a lot of those things, and there's a lot of those knives where the design's really cool, the materials are really cool, the vision is there, but sometimes the execution on these things aren't that great.
Right.
The tolerances that we need to have these things to work smooth and to operate properly. This isn't a dig. I know somebody's going to comment about this, and Sam Riggins hates custom knives.
Yes, we're going to pull quote that, Sam.
Yeah.
So,
there's I think that there's a lot of production companies that are doing better fit and finish than a lot of small knife makers are capable of. That doesn't apply to everybody, but if I'm spending $1,500 on a knife, I know my wife will listen to this, and I promise Michelle that I will not spend $1,500 on a knife. I'll spend $1,500 on 10 knives, but I'm not going to make a single knife transaction of $1,500. But there's a lot of times where I've handled these things, and they don't open as well, they don't close as well, the feel isn't there. And not to say that all production knives are awesome and perfect either, but I've always found that for me and for my use, that couple $100 range is really a sweet spot for me.
There's a lot of really quality knives around that price range,
for sure.
And my benchmark for budget is Civivi. Like the Civivi knives at $50-ish.
They're untouchable.
If your price is more than that, you better be at least as good as a Civivi. That's kind of my benchmark there. So
correct.
And that's always the first knife company that I steer people to when they're like, look, I want a better knife. I don't want to spend $200. That Civivi is the very first. I have a lot of Civivis, and I've been constantly impressed with what they're doing for the prices they're doing.
Good stuff.
And you hear a lot of times too, oh, it's Chinese, blah blah blah. Man, there's a lot of really good engineers. There's a lot of really good facilities in China that are making absolutely amazing products. And Civivi, and I have a handful of Wiis. And honestly, aside from materials, I can't tell you the difference on fit and finish between the Wii knife and the Civivi knives. And
Look at that. Nate's giving us the 1 minute warning. We spent the whole first segment
on knives.
Talking about knives.
Do we have time for the beers of the week, Tim?
You know what? Let's do the beers of the week. And then when we get into the next segment, we're going to start off talking about amber ales. How's that sound?
All right. Sounds good.
Well, the beers of the week, Brian, as always, great list. Courtesy of Sam. Thank you, Sam, for hooking us up with some beers. We really appreciate it. We are currently drinking their Regenerator, which is a New Zealand Pilsner. We're going to get into Arrow of Time, which is a black IPA. We're going to get into Vet's Blend IPA and Face Melter, Brian, which is a West Coast DIPA. And that sounds right up your alley.
Oh, yes.
Brian, that you would. Smalls, we're sorry we left you out here with all our Blade nerd talk. We'll get you in the next.
I feel like you should get me a knife.
We need to get you. We'll do this. We'll work on
an extra knife.
We're making a promise that we'll get Smalls a knife. Sure enough. You are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We promise this show is about beer, and we will be back right after this. Good stuff, man. I could probably do the whole show just sitting here BSing about knives, you know.
Oh, I could. Easy.
Yeah.
I don't know quite enough, but I think that you guys do, so I could just throw in questions.
Do you go on any of the Reddit knife forums?
I steer clear of Reddit. I have severe ADHD, and I have found that both Twitter and Reddit tend to be not good for my mental health.
Fair enough.
That
understandable.
Makes a lot
it
of
does.
sense.
Yeah.
Twitter's weirdly addictive. Like it's
Reddit has a knife raffle subreddit.
Yeah.
And so they'll go on there. And I when I first got on there, I got into like every raffle, you know, and I was dropping $500 a month on raffles, but I was winning 2 or 3 a month. So I've been you know what? The last thing I won was a Chris Reeve. I got a small, small Sabenza.
Nice. That's a score.
You know what? It didn't fit. It wasn't for me. So I flipped it over pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's a knife that I always wanted. And as soon as I held one, I was like, it's not my deal.
Exactly.
I get it. I get it. I get why people love them.
Yeah.
And it's not my deal.
My ones that get my most my PM2, which I put on some Flytanium scales, Flytanium carbon fiber scales. I got a nice clip, upgraded the hardware on it. So that gets a lot of pocket time. My Enforcer that I've got on me right now, I've got a giant mouse, the Santnix exclusive, Ace Bibli, Ace Grand.
What's that Malibu one that I went and got?
Yeah, the Protect
Malibu. I like that.
Protect Malibu.
So that's almost the Safe Queen for me. I just have it on my desk and look at it.
So you actually have a few use Safe Queens. So he's
kind of,
not really Safe Queens. You just don't. I mean,
I don't carry them around
regular rotation.
The what was the thing I was thinking about? Oh,
you got a Vero.
Yes, I do have a Vero. I've carried it a few times. It's once I got it, I'm like, okay, this is all right. It's not. Yeah, it's not a. I would.
Which one do you have? Do you remember? Is it the Impulse, the Axon?
I think it's the Impulse.
If you have the Impulse and you're not going to carry it, I'd be interested in buying it from you.
All right. Well, I'll need to double check it.
There. So
maybe I should. I mean, honestly, that's $300 or something like that.
They're
400 or whatever it was when I bought
That's about my thing, Sam. That's about where I'll go. It's like the Veros and that. To be honest, if I had more cash, I'd drop $1,000 on the knife. I would. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about. He was talking about the designers and the the execution isn't so good. I think it's a Civivi that was a designer. I think it might have been that guy that died. And I think a part of the
I just bought one of his.
It's got a the clip for your belt clip or your pocket clip is built in, so you have to push into the frame to get it to stick out.
I remember that.
And I think it's a cool knife. I will never carry it, and I've used it all at home a lot. Nice, it feels nice in your hands, looks impressive. But in terms of actually putting clipping to your pocket or whatever, horribly impractical.
Yeah.
I would never use it. I don't care for
We'll
for
get
that,
you figured
but-
out, Smalls.
Yeah.
We will.
Oh, they need to make like a penknife, but in a crochet hook.
Hey, let me
Yeah.
With the crochet hook on
Yeah.
it. There you go.
There you go.
looking through my bag. I may have
They
some
may
extra
have a
knives.
Swiss Army. They may have a Swiss Army knife that's got a crochet hook on there.
No,
So
no, I don't want a Swiss Army. I want a real knife.
we'll get. Do you like pink? You're not really
No,
girly.
I'm
Pink's
not
okay.
I'm not girly.
All right. Do you want a switchblade or do you want a flipper? Or?
I like a flipper.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting the details here, Sam. We'll get it. We'll get
How about one of these? A Balisong bottle opener from. I think this is. Who does this? This is Boker, right? This is a Boker one. Yeah. Anyway. Bizarre.
Ready to party.
Ready.
So ready to party. I thought I had some other knives in here. I probably cleared out the bag when I traveled last.
Yeah. I watched some of the videos online of like the was it Squid Industries or who is it that does like the trainers and stuff, Sam, for the Balisongs? It's Squid, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that. I don't follow the Balisong stuff too much.
Well, I saw them at Blade Show. They do a competition, a spinning competition.
Yeah, that stuff's crazy.
So
there are people sitting, like dozens of people sitting on the floor with trainers, just flipping them around and around and around constantly.
Yeah.
And all I see is me chopping my fingers off every time I see one of those. And I'm like, oh, that looks neat, but I'll never buy one. I will buy the bottle opener this Balisong because that's just stupid and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. They have one of those that from like, actually, I think it may be the Squid Industries or whatever, but it's like $150 bottle opener, but it's like a real like balanced Balisong.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah. This has got issues. It likes to loosen up a little too much and I have to continue to tighten it. But this was also $20, Tim.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Yeah. A little different.
And
different game.
Again, it's a really dumb thing and it's cheap and I love it. So that's perfect.
Yeah. I think, Sam, I'm about, my collection's about 35, maybe 40 right now.
Yeah. That's a lot of knives.
Yeah. Right. I tell myself it's not that many when I see the guys. I'm like, I don't really have that many. But people who aren't knife people are worried about you when you own 40 knives. So
everybody thinks I own like 27,000 knives. So it's like, when I'm like, I don't know, 100, and they're like, wait, what?
You close it.
And see, if you came to my house, you may think that I was that way because
make me nervous.
Like there's a knife on my coffee table, my end table. Of course, I've got a couple on my desk and that. So you're never going to be without a knife in
the
my
show.
house.
You can have a knife.
All right.
There we go.
I have a knife to play
with.
Cat the mermaid
Buchanan with a gun.
Yeah. All right. To beer talk.
Let's talk about beer.
Let's talk about beer. All right. We're going to
beer.
go back in and talk about some beer.
Well, Knives opened all the ingredients that went into this beer.
What's that?
I said Knives opened all the ingredients that went into this
they're
beer.
Important.
This is an important leading step into this. Yes.
We're ready. Let's do it.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand. So if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on the Podcast Park and all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to Cosmic Eye Brewing.
Sam, we're behaving. We are knife nerds and we are tempted to just talk knives, but this is a beer show. So we're going to talk about some beer.
Let's do it.
We got a question, Brian, a topic you kind of got involved with on Twitter this week. There was a discussion of amber ales and kind of rebranding it that maybe amber ales, much like we've talked about IPLs before, IPLs didn't sell probably a lot because they were called IPLs. Amber's a good one talking about, the holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. That's a pretty good one to put on your holiday table. So amber ales.
Yeah.
Sam, have you ever given a thought if you were to rebrand the style? What do you think a good name for an amber ale would be?
So I actually just released a couple weeks ago an amber ale. Every year we do a collaboration with Precision Skateboards here in town, who's getting ready to celebrate their 39th year in business or something crazy like that next year. And I feel like there is no need for a rebrand on amber ales.
Fair.
I get the heat that they take, right? Like, and I get that it seems, old manish to drink amber ales, right? I'm an old man now too, so I can say these things, I guess. But yeah, I don't really think there's a need to rebrand them. I think that there's just a need for consumers to just shut up and drink some things that brewers produce for them, and just accept it.
Shut up and drink.
Shut up and drink.
Hang that as a sign over the bar. Shut up and drink.
Because I don't know how you would go about like I mean, to me, it's like one of those things. Like an American amber ale is a classic style. It's a classic thing. And to me, in my mind, it's like trying to like say, hey, what are we going to call Pilsners instead of Pilsners? So for me, I tend to lean towards pale, dry, hoppy beers. It's 90% of what I drink. It's 90% of what we make. But I think when we're like trying to change what things are by calling them something different, I don't think it does really anybody a service, and it doesn't do the beer service. When we put this beer out last year, I sold it was a little slower this year just because we didn't get to hype it up as much. But I sold out of our tap room, I sold 5 half barrels of this and 50 cases in 5 days of an amber ale.
That's impressive.
All right.
He has no need for rebranding if you're selling it like that.
Well, and here's the thing. Not everybody has to love everything. True. I mean, it's something that, you know what? Liver and onions has survived all these years without being called something else. There's people that like it. There's people that are never going to.
Has it though? When was the last time you saw liver and onions?
Where did we go? That it was actually on the menu just this week.
Did we see that?
No, I went to Marietta Diner with some family in town. It was on. It's on the menu there.
I'm not surprised. Everything is on the diner.
But amber ales. I enjoy an amber ale every now and then. It's not a style that I necessarily seek out, but. Does everything need beautified and rebranded? Smalls, what do you think?
I don't think so. Don't mess with the classics. Don't be like New Coke. Just stay.
New Coke, boy. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
I'm going to be controversial, or I'll take the opposing view, and the idea was tossed around on Twitter. It wasn't my idea of calling it like a velvet ale or a velveteen ale or something like that. And I want to say that was
you may have sold Sam there. He's like, well,
hang on.
Well,
and so those were all right, but I'm like, hold up, you're so close. It needs to be a velvet IPA. And I feel proud about that, and fully encourage anybody who's having trouble selling their ambers to call it a velvet IPA.
A velvet
completely
IPA.
Behind that.
Sam, interesting that we're talking about image issues in that for certain beers. We're drinking a black IPA from you right now.
Yeah.
And that's one that I think some people, just because of the name, may shy away from. And we've talked to people that, call it a Cascadian dark ale or whatever. We talked to a brewer down in South American country. I forget right now, but
was that Colombia?
May have been, but he mentioned that just calling it a Cascadian dark ale there, it was like his #1 selling beer. And a lot of it had to do with the perception that people liked that this was, a Northwest, the Cascadian dark ale, that the branding worked on that. So.
And it makes a difference. And the cold IPA versus an IPL. Yeah. IPLs are delicious. They always have been. I've liked them a long time. But until you started calling them a cold IPA, they're dead in the water.
Let's have some fun with it and restyle all of the classic British pub beers. Yeah, ESB, that's got to change. Mild.
Yeah, none of them can be called bitter anymore.
Yeah. So we'll just mix up all those old ones.
Yeah. Hazy, juicy, bitter.
Right, hazy, juicy, bitter. Exactly.
Well, I used to work for Nebraska Brewing Company up in the Omaha metro area, and we were in the process of doing a black IPA. I get the whole it's black. It can't be black and pale. Okay, everything's fine. It's cool. I understand. We understand that black can't be pale, right? But setting up the expectation for it's an IPA, it's black. Let's just live with it. That's where I've always landed. But we were putting this black IPA out in the middle of the original hubbub of all this. and our head brewer Tyson Arp. This is one of my favorite beer names ever. We called it Nebraskadian Dark Ale.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
It was one of the funniest things to me of all time because he like showed up at work and was like, "Hey, I know what to call this black IPA," and then he said Nebraskadian, and I just died. It was like I couldn't even like work the rest of the day because I thought it was so funny.
Sam's laid out.
Yeah,
breathing into a paper bag, trying to recover from it.
Bring me a cheesesteak and a black IPA.
I'm gonna check Untapped and see if that's out there as a name. That's got to be by now. Did you actually name it that, or?
Yeah, and it's a beer we did. We did it a couple times at the brew pub, and I'm not sure. I've been gone from there for what year is it right now? 2022. I've been gone for about.
Sounds right.
I've been gone from there for about 8 years, and I'm not sure if when we moved to the production facility, I'm not sure if they've brewed it since then. They might have brewed it a couple times, but I know it's on Untapped. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can take it over. Yeah.
This, we were talking about amber ales and the potential need to rebrand them, but that's a good one for Thanksgiving.
It is.
That goes well with Thanksgiving. Sam, your holiday table, what are you having? What beers are coming to Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, so I work all Thanksgiving Day so we can give our staff time off.
Cool.
But usually what I would take to Thanksgiving, I'm generally pulling something from the cellar. Usually that means, and again, after working at Nebraska Brewing for so long, I still have a bunch of our old barrel aged reserve series stuff stashed. So definitely pulling some probably Melange à Trois, which is a Chardonnay barrel aged strong Belgian. Probably pulling that out. I'm definitely almost every Thanksgiving before I started doing this, I would have something from Jolly Pumpkin. Most likely probably a BAM beer or a BAM Noir. And then, the rest of it's just, chill, easy drinking, longer stuff. I'm totally down with like High Lifes and Tecades because you can drink a lot of them. So usually a couple big bomber format things. Some maybe pulling out a big barrel aged stout to go with some pecan pie. But yeah.
I'm going to Sam's for Thanksgiving then.
My family.
I'm headed to Nebraska.
Now,
my family's.
Go ahead.
My family's not real big drinkers.
Okay.
So, usually it would just be me and my brother like pounding bombers of like insane stuff that we pulled out of cellars. Yeah.
That's great. So you're open on Thanksgiving Day. I actually saw it on Facebook. Pie donations are accepted.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of regulars that come in on Thanksgiving Day?
We have a pretty good day on Thanksgiving. Once people usually what happens is it's kind of slow at first and then people start figuring out we're open. And my wife, who's my business partner also, it's just her and me all day. We come in, open up. And we do this at Christmas and 4th of July too. We come in, work the whole day so our staff can be home with their family. Because really, as a business our size, like losing a day of revenue just isn't a thing we can do. So
keep that money going. You got to do it. It's the holidays. You're listening to the Beer Guys radio show. We need to take a quick break, but we will be right back with more from Cosmic Eye.
I need to look it up and give him credit because one of the beer folks on Twitter actually came up with the idea of rebranding it. So I don't want to present it as though it were my idea.
Don't steal.
Yeah, I'm not stealing your idea, dude.
Steal my sunshine.
I want to say it was Beer Vana, the guy from Portland that did, but I'm not sure.
Is that Allworth? Isn't he Beer Vana?
Yeah, Jeff Allworth.
Do you know? Is that who that is, Sam? Do you know? Okay, I didn't know if you knew.
Twitter's a mystery to me.
Gotcha. Cool. Probably for the best. We stay on it just because being in beer media, it's important. So, I say because it's important. Brian's got a little bit of an addiction now. So,
yeah, it's weirdly I get because I'm trying to like help promote the show, and so I'm the guy that's doing most of the stuff under the Beer Guys account.
Yeah,
and you get to a point where you're going out there and like, is anybody responded to anything I've done? I've done so many things, and like I got to check again. It's like I'm working, got to check again and
refresh.
Yeah,
yes.
I think
it's so dumb.
I think in our Twitter, bio, I think it says that I can't remember how I phrased it. I said I think it's the most intermittent feed in all of American craft beer, and then in parentheses it says probably. I think
that does seem correct because I just followed your account so I could tag you in it. So yeah. And I noticed you hadn't put anything out in a while. I'm
dude,
like, that's fine.
It's a bridge too far for me. And I've set up a TikTok account and stuff. I shotgun beers all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to do this TikTok and shotgun all these beers. And then 8 beers in, I was like,
that's enough of that. That's enough of that.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Did you?
Of course, we keep getting folks tell us to get on TikTok. It's I don't like TikTok personally. I'm not a fan.
No TikTok-y for you?
No, do you TikTok?
No, I don't TikTok.
Yeah,
I'm on it just to watch the old.
Out of a bit of paranoia, I have security concerns about it because apparently they shamelessly collect all data.
FBI. So here, let me tell you. I'll make this brief. TikTok is absolutely controlled by China. I mean, that's not conspiracy theory or anything. It's a well-known fact that it's controlled by China. Okay. TikTok in China is happy puppy videos, this and that. The algorithm for the US site is different, and it's meant to boost controversial, anger-inducing, and all that. It is a propaganda machine. The FBI put out a statement today that said, or I don't know if it was today, but it was recent, that they have extreme concerns over China's control of TikTok because it is a propaganda machine and it is absolutely used to foster unrest.
And it targets the youth, which is the absolute worst thing to do. At least if you were targeting adults, they'd probably still fall for it. But theoretically, they'd be smart enough to somewhat fight against it mentally.
There was a survey recently asking, and I forget the age group, but it was the younger group, whatever generation we're talking about now. I think are we on Gen Zers now? Are we done talking trash about millennials? I think
they're old now. Millennials are old.
Yeah.
They're old enough now.
Oh, you sure? Oh yeah, you're closer to
so the millennials are old enough now to complain about the next generation. So we can't complain about millennials.
I'm happy to pass the torch to them. And now Gen X is basically forgotten about for the most part.
So I think
it's boomers and then millennials. That's all people care about.
TikTok is the number one search engine for Gen Zers or something.
Oh, really?
So they're going there for their information. When they look for information on the coronavirus, it was the number one source that they went to for search.
Did they do a dance with it?
Yes. And so that's it. So they're going to there, and the top results are very, 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 very frequently wrong. So just something to throw out there about TikTok, y'all.
I honestly, my biggest concern was, and I wasn't even thinking about the propaganda angle, is that they had documented it basically is like having a keylogger on your phone.
Yeah.
It captures everything you do and reports it back to their company, and they don't care. They're like, it's like you're entering passwords. Well, they know what your password is now.
And I believe that a lot of the younger generation, when told that the response is basically,
I don't care.
I don't care. That's so. Now they got funny duck videos and dog videos, and
I got a really good. The one time I went to TikTok and I did it in an incognito tab, so they couldn't have any of my information. I got a really good way of making French press coffee that I've tried out, and it was quite good, quite effective, and I like it.
I could probably tune the algorithm to send me stuff, but anytime I go in there, I don't log in. Like I said, I go from my computer, I go from an incognito tab, and I'll just scroll through. Normally 20 posts down, I'm enraged and leave.
That's the point of it. I think that's the point from what you're saying.
Didn't that big trend, the feta baked pasta thing
the
come off of
TikTok
that?
pasta,
was that a TikTok?
That was a TikTok thing,
Yeah. Did you see that, Sam? You know about that one?
But I'm going to look it up because it sounds awesome.
It is really pretty good. Yeah.
Block of feta and a bunch
cherry
of noodles and cherry tomatoes
and garlic.
Yeah.
And everything involved in it is something you would like eating, and all of it together sounds great. Yeah. So I'm like, it's got to be a winner.
Go TikTok.
Yeah.
1 point to TikTok.
That's right.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
for pasta.
As a fat guy, I'm all about it.
That's right. I am right there with you.
I feel attacked. So why you got to call me out like that?
Yeah.
So we've got a brewery here, good friends of ours. Shout out to Goodword. We talk about them a lot, but they have a beer called Face for Radio, and we're like, guys, what is? They're like,
I tell them every time I'm in there, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm being attacked here.
I think he said something to us like, we don't care about you enough to name a beer after you. Or something. Wow. I was like, fair.
That's a fair point.
Fair.
A fair point.
So, we had a festival with them last weekend. Le Bon Beer Fest, which was table beers, mixed fermentation, natural wines, and a boatload of oysters on the half shell.
So, I missed it.
Yeah. Very fancy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Quite fancy.
So, all right, let's see. Let me see. We've been see what we got up next. Where should we flow from here?
So we haven't even gotten really into any of my notes yet.
We covered your third point already, Brian.
Which was the third point?
Knife talk.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I basically have a bullet point in here that said
talking about knives.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like, we'll just keep going on it, man.
I really have a bullet point that says knife nerd talk, and that's it. I didn't even put any big notes in there.
You know what? Let's come back in, Sam, and talk about Nebraska/Lincoln beer in general. Just talk about your beer scene. Some we'll kind of tie in what you do. We'll talk about Malort.
Oh man,
yeah.
So,
which I have questions about, but we can save that for the show.
Yeah. We'll put it on there. All right. Let's get back on it, Nate. We're ready.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WBQO 93.7 FM in Brunswick, Georgia. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WBQO every Sunday at 1 p.m. Now let's get back to Cosmic Eye Brewing. Though I do want to say, we talked about rebranding Ambers. I want to give a shout out to Jeff Allworth at Beervana on Twitter. It was actually his idea, so I don't want to claim
the Jeff idea. That said, was he the one that suggested Velvet Ale?
Yes. Okay. I suggested the Velvet IPA. So I want to give him credit in case he happens to hear this.
Fair enough.
I'm not stealing your thunder,
man.
we
don't want to don't want to steal. We don't want to steal from folks. We've been called out for stealing stuff we didn't steal before.
Correct.
So we sure don't want to actually steal
want to steal somebody's stuff. Yes.
Yes. So Sam, you are in Lincoln, Nebraska, correct? Cosmic Eyes, Lincoln, Nebraska?
We are in East Lincoln. Yeah.
Okay. It's been many, many years / decades since I've been to Lincoln. I mentioned to you before the show, I grew up my early childhood years in Norfolk, Nebraska, and we moved away. I was about 12. I haven't been back since then. But you know what? I really liked Nebraska as a kid. It's a very hometowny. Norfolk was a very hometown, small town kind of place in that. So
it's an easy place to live. Yeah.
For sure. So I didn't at 12 years old. I wasn't able to experience the beer scene any yet. So how is it now? All these years later, how's Lincoln's beer scene?
Yeah, so it's still kind of weird here. We're still nationally behind, trends of numbers of craft beer consumers. I think when you start, and I could have these numbers wrong, but, when you're looking at someplace like, urban areas like Chicago, you're looking at having 15 to 25% of people are craft beer consumers, at least occasionally. And here we're still just seeing like it's 3 to 5% of the market that's craft beer drinkers. So we're definitely always up against cheap macro beers. And really that's our biggest That's our biggest hurdle, I think, more than anything is price point. Especially here in Lincoln, we're University of Nebraska is here. It's the largest. Yeah, there's multiple University of Nebraska schools, but the Lincoln campus is by far the biggest. And so even with a campus of, I don't even know how big it is anymore. It's 30,000 plus students now. Even with having that large of a university campus, the focus on that is still more low cost, high volume drinking versus less drinking, more quality drinking. And that we see that behavior really carry over into real adulthood. Like our little corner of southeast Nebraska is like sells more Busch Light than any market in the world, like combined. For
loving
for
the
real.
Busch Light, huh?
Is that a real fact, or is that hyperbole for?
No, that's a real thing.
Oh wow!
Okay,
there's so much of it. There's so much of it sold in this part of the country. It's mind-boggling, and so we are always, as brewers, up against that. And I think that's always going to be the hardest thing that we have to deal with. And especially in Lincoln, it's just a really price conscious beer town. Omaha's a little bit of a different story, but they're still kind of fighting that same battle of, we're only 50 miles, Omaha and Lincoln are 40, 50 miles apart. Yeah. A lot of people like to act like they're two different cities. And while they are, I think that does both of our metro areas a disservice. But even in Omaha, we're still seeing really low craft beer support in just percentages, and that's also just because of just price point, I think, for people.
What are the styles that are popular there? What's for those that are drinking craft? What are they drinking?
Yeah. So, I think one of the cool things here in Lincoln is we're all doing very different stuff. It's not one, nobody's just doing one thing. And I can't remember, we either have, we're a metro area we're just shy of 300,000 people here in Lincoln. And I think we have 8 operating breweries. It might be 9. It's 8 or 9 operating breweries here in town. And every single one of us does different things. We have people that are just doing, really big stouts, hype beers, that kind of thing. Our focus here at Cosmic Eye has always just been kind of like, my joke is that I like to drink a lot of beers, so I usually make beers that you can drink a lot of.
You can drink, yes, makes sense.
And so, while we do a handful of double IPAs here and there, most of our beers are, have 2 or 3 beers while you're here, and you're going to be able to function and not miss work the next day. Zipline's the same way. It's a lot of approachable, clean, more easy to drink beers. But I think really each one of the breweries here in town kind of has their own thing that they do. And it's not really like it's not like if you go to Richmond, Virginia, and everybody's kind of doing just hype stuff all the time.
Right.
Everything here, every brewery here, we all have our own identities, and we're all doing really separate things. So I think that's one of the cooler things here. Omaha, I think I would argue Omaha is a lot the same way too.
Okay. That's, we got a question. There was a question on one of the online beer forums recently that's like, what do you think's missing from the Georgia beer scene? And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, honestly, nothing. Because I know
it's got it pretty well covered. Yeah.
I know if I want to drink Pilsners, if I want to drink great lagers, I know where to go. If I want kettle sours, I know where to go. If I want some mixed firm stuff, if I want stouts, that there's nothing for me personally that I feel like we're missing, right. And in all honesty, if it's not here, it's probably distributed here. And of course, there's a bevy of IPAs all around that is not the style I normally go to, first of all. But even for the people that complain that breweries are just all IPAs, absolutely not true.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, we get that here all the time. I mean, I think we have 24 beers up on the board right now. I'm 7 of them are probably IPAs.
Right.
And people will come in and be like, "Oh man, that's a lot of IPAs," and I'm like, "Dude, I got 9 loggers on."
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, and you think Sam mentioned you've got 24 beers on. Even if half of those, even if a dozen were IPAs, that's a dozen that aren't.
Yeah,
I mean, so you still got stuff to choose from there.
So he's got 16 between IPAs and lagers. That still leaves another 8 or something like that that are something else.
Exactly.
So I mean,
you know what? I want to do something real quick before we move on, because with Smalls, you just went on an adventure recently.
I did. Yes.
You went to Alaska.
Yes.
You bounced around on glaciers, and we've got a whole half. I guess it's a whole half of a smoked salmon in here. That, Brian, I know you're excited about that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm surprised it's not open already, honestly.
I know you got to explore the beer a little bit. How was that in Alaska?
It was really cool. All of the tour guides that we met all basically mentioned which breweries to go check out. And it was really neat to go to, even just like the local restaurants, was nothing but local beer, because it's really hard for them to get certain things up there, and just
makes sense.
Wide variety. It was really nice to, like, the 49th State Brewery, the beers I brought, they had at least like 30 different beers that you can pick from, and it was just a nice variety that you can go with. Even one of the restaurants we went to, which they kind of consider to be more mediocre type beer, it was really good. They still had a good mix of beers there, so highly recommend it.
Very cool. What, outside of beer and ice, what was the high point in there for you?
I mean, obviously, I got engaged.
So.
Oh, that's right. You got engaged.
Yes.
I was going to say, did you have a moose sighting? Because that would be next.
No,
number 2 for me.
We saw a dead moose. We didn't see, and they call them swamp donkeys. They call them
swamp donkeys.
Nice. There's a video game Brian and I play, and there's this robotic, looks like the Boston Dynamics 4-legged and we call them swamp donkeys.
Swamp donkeys. Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, that's cool. That's an adventure I want to take sometime, Smalls. It's something different. I always end up at the beach or mountains, but
I'm going to go up there and get some salmon and get engaged. Oh, wait, I'm already married.
Yeah, don't tell Uma. Yeah. Don't tell your wife. Don't tell your wife. Y'all, you are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take us another break, but we will be right back with more from Cosmic Eye Brewing.
I'm finding this black IPA to be quite enjoyable, and I'm very opposed generally to them. So
yeah, Brian's a hater. Brian's a black IPA hater.
I actually hear that about this beer all the time. Yeah. People are always like, "Oh, black IPAs suck, and I hate them," and I love this. I have a good buddy of mine who's a real active home brewer and a really good home brewer. I was at a party. And this was before we opened the brewery, and I was just still brewing at home and doing pilot batches and test batches. And I just took like a crowler of this over to this party, and he was like, "What'd you bring?" And I was like, "Oh, I got this and this and this black IPA." And he was like, "I hate black IPA." And I was like, "Well, all right, that's cool."
Yeah.
And then like 20 minutes later, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I got to talk to you." And I was like, "All right." And he was like, "I'm so mad at you right now." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, I literally just got here, and I haven't been drinking that much and haven't done anything yet. And he goes, "I hate you because I hate black IPAs, and I absolutely love this beer." I was just like,
"See,
boom,
take that."
Yeah, we hear this a lot with this beer, and it's always stoked me. We did a brewed IPA too, and people would kind of tell me the same thing with that. They'd be like, "Man, brewed IPAs suck, and this beer rules." So,
confession, I liked brewed IPAs. That when they were done well, and
they were
so.
Good.
Here's something we get, Sam, is we had this happen when Northeast IPAs came out, and then again when the Brute came out. is our brewers would try to do them without ever actually having one.
Yeah.
So we get these interpretations that are just so off the mark.
Hazy.
Yep.
We saw hazy brutes, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's not a hazy beer.
Yeah,
I think we're better about that now. I don't think
it
it
happened
happens
down
as much.
I was at BKS in Kansas City a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to Greg from American Solera, and we just started kind of talking about things that we had done that, were hype, or, things that kind of came and went. And I was like, I really wish people would have done brewed IPAs better, because it's my jam, super dry, super pale, super hoppy. Like, what is there not to love about that? And I was talking to him about this beer that we had done, and he was like, oh man, you got to send me some of that. And I was like, bro, we haven't even made this for 2 years or whatever. And he was like, that was a style that I just wish would come back. And I was like, I'm with you. It's probably one of the beers, like when people talk to me about what, because we constantly have people telling us what beers we should make again, which is a blessing and a curse. And that's one of our brewed IPA that we did. It was called Bridges in the Sky. I'm a big Dream Theater fan, and that's one of their songs. And so that's one of the beers that's the most requested things that we haven't brewed for a while was our brewed IPA.
Bring it back as like a crystal pilsner, because pilsners are very much the rage now. Completely rebranded. Take the IPA, rebrand it to pilsner. People might, oh my God, your crystal pilsner is delightful.
Yeah,
crystal pilsner.
Right. I love it.
You want to grab that dipping, Nate?
Right. So I think I don't know if we'll get into it during the show, so I'm going to ask now. I think that the selection of hops and the use of hops in a black IPA is very important, and part of the reason I don't like a lot of them, I think that the malts bitterness and the hops fight each other. This goes along together very well. What hops are you using in this black IPA? Well,
so I actually just brewed this today. Usually, if you ask me these things, sometimes I'll forget, just because we brew so many beers. But this beer is it's pale. We use all Breeze malt here. So this is Breeze's pale malt. It's rye malt. There's some dark Munich 30 in this. There's some caramel rye malt, and then midnight wheat. And then hopping for this, we use Nugget, Centennial, Yukonot, and Eldorado.
Okay, I do like Eldorado.
Yeah.
So that's part.
I will say that I didn't pick out
You didn't get the candy?
Eldorado is typically one I don't care for.
Yeah.
Usually I get like a candied fruit from it that I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, and the way those hops hit this is just like that there's the citrus element of those hops all hit that black malt like just in the right spot.
They absolutely correct. Yeah.
So I'm sipping your dipping now. We just cracked into it, and I get big melon peach, maybe.
Yeah. So that's 100% Breeze Synergy Select Pilsner malt. Not 100. There's a little bit of Carapils in there too. But then hop wise on that, we did that's Strata, mostly Strata, and then a little bit of Idaho Gem.
Okay. Yeah, I dig it. I like the flavor on that quite a lot.
Is such a great hop for IPA. It's just not even funny.
Yeah. I meant to share it with you and forgot. You know Michael Tonsmere, or who he is, the mad fermentationist.
Yep.
So he got, I think it's Sapwood Cellars is his brewery, if I'm not mistaken. But he did an analysis based on Untapped reviews of which hops were the most popular based on how they reviewed in the beers. And he looked at like every beer they'd done since they opened, how they reviewed and different things. And I forget the results, but it was interesting to look and see, that certain beers with certain hops did rise to the top there.
Indeed. You said you use all Bryce.
That's Brian's. I'm not listening. Indeed. Indeed. Whatever, Tim.
You know what? You're absolutely correct.
What'd I say?
You're talking about the top hops. I was mentally processing a question, and I did not.
I know.
I totally checked out. Sorry.
I know the indeed, and then another sentence starts. It's like the words are coming in there and end.
End scene.
Honestly, thinking about it, I did. In fact, my brain did not pick up the last couple of words you're saying. Okay. Sorry, I was processing a question.
I know how you are. Go ahead.
No, I would. So I was getting back to he's made the comment at least once, maybe a couple of times. All Breeze malt. Is there a particular reason for that?
So, when I first started homebrewing, I was just using whatever, grabbing stuff, whatever I could get on sale, whatever I could get my hands on. And when I started working at Nebraska Brewing Company, we used all Breeze malt up there. So
those out of there, yeah.
When I left NBC and got to the point that I was like seriously doing like pilot beers for the brewery, one of the things I did was I said, "Hey, I'm not going to do anything that I did there." So I started using lots of different malts, checking different malts. And while I was making good beers and things were going well, it was probably about a year into doing some pilot beers. I started kind of gradually working Breeze back in. And really what I found was my beers were getting better. And I don't necessarily think it's a quality issue from other maltsters. Wireman's great, Rar's great, Canada Malting's great. There's all these ingredients are phenomenal, right? But what I was finding was what worked for me was the Breeze catalog, because I understood the flavor profiles of the malts. I understand how the malts worked together. And then when we got really serious and moving into this, I just started using all Breeze malt for everything. And then kind of the flip side of that, of like knowing how to use it, knowing how the catalog works, knowing how the malts work. We're still a pretty small brewery. I mean, we're 1,000 barrels a year. And so when I'm ordering from multiple places, that pallet charge for getting, like if I wanted to hit up BSG and grab some Wireman malt, Ryan Ung's, I know you're watching this, and I know you're going to sweat me about it. So, when I'm getting a pallet charge just to order a handful of things for a beer, for a brewery our size, it's incredibly expensive. So I'm able here to order directly from Breeze. My shipping, I save so much money on shipping. It's not even funny. They have everything I want in their catalog. I know how the malts work, and they've never given me a single reason not to work with them. And I will say out of all of our suppliers, they've been more supportive of us as a business than anybody has. I mean, it's not just our sales rep. I mean, we know their administrative people. We're friends with the family that owns the company. And it's the experience we've had with them has just been phenomenal. So, yeah.
So it's not like a slight preference. It's like a very, very strong, backed up, very researched.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
okay, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I think Wireman malt's phenomenal. I think all the Rar stuff's phenomenal. I mean, I would argue I've never really used a bad malt. But when you put the whole picture together and look at it as a system as opposed to a product, it's 100% what we're going to do. And I don't, even if we grew, I don't know if I would change what we did. Yeah.
If it ain't broke.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
They got you for life, man. Yeah,
I mean,
they're doing it right.
My sales rep, Dan, used to work for Squatters in Wasatch out in Utah. And I mean, this dude basically invented American session beers. And to have him in my back pocket as a resource, and just to be able to be like, "Hey man, what do you think about this?" It's insane.
Yeah,
can't argue with that, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's head into old segment 4 here.
Segment 4 time. Yes. You know what? We got a bunch of ground to cover. We got to cover.
We do.
New beer
We're not going to cover it all.
Yeah. Let's see.
We just can't do it.
We can't do it. So, Pour of Doom.
So just talk about more knives.
More knives. Yeah. Just yeah. It's enough.
So a little bit of beer talk.
Back to knives, Spider Co's, and Benchmades,
right, let's
and
see.
Savivs.
Let's talk about the damp beer. Is that the way that's pronounced?
Yeah, I do.
Because that's something interesting that we don't talk about a lot,
or even see about a lot.
Yeah. Let's start there and see where we go,
and maybe get a pour of.
Anything in particular that we haven't discussed you want us to make sure we mention?
No, I'm good with whatever,
right,
man.
Sounds good.
We have to get the Pour of Doom.
Okay, that's all right. We can work that in there.
Okay.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Cosmic Eye Brewing.
Cosmic Eye Brewing. We just opened your DIPA.
Yes.
Here, Sam, and face melter, and my face is still intact, so I haven't got that far into it.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at you, and you could be melting a little
bit of melty there,
a little bit.
But you know what? I want to ask you about your can art, because this is all real unique, especially on this one. Do you have an artist you work with, or?
Yeah. So we're in the last few months, we've just been in the process of rebranding everything. We used to work with a guy named Jared Rawlings, who kind of came up with the kind of star eye logo for us, and did all of our original can art and things. And when we were doing that, everything was just very kind of minimal is probably the best word to describe it, right? So everything was very plain. Everything was very straightforward. And while we absolutely loved it, and we would get tons of compliments about it, I think overall in the market, people just didn't really respond well to it at all. You know, the people that got it and loved it. But everything's so, you know, hyper crazy right now. And like part of it was like a pushback to the, you know, crazy cartoony artwork. Our idea was kind of like we wanted the beer to speak for itself. And we ran that stuff for 3 years. And when we were kind of looking at, hey, look, we've got to get some more beer sales. We've got to get some more stuff going. The feedback that we were getting from accounts was, hey, this needs to be more visual. It needs to be more interactive. You know, that's what our distributor was telling us. That's what people on the front lines were telling us. And while I really loved what we did before and would have just kept doing it forever, we just kind of were like, hey, we've really got to figure out if this is the right thing for us. So kind of at the same time, Eric Anderson, who's doing all the artwork for us now, he's a tattooer here in Lincoln. We've known him for a long time. He tattoos my wife and I pretty often. He also just happens to live a few blocks from the brewery. He's in here all the time. And we've always loved his style. And a big part of it is anytime you see something from this dude, it's just instantly recognizable as his. And there's no denying that Eric did it. So we kind of hemmed and hawed on switching it up just because we loved what Jared had done for us and we loved the look and the vibe of everything. And then one day, Eric had got there's a design program on iPad called Procreate. And he had just like got it and like posted something on his Instagram and was like, hey, look what I just made. And I immediately called my wife and I said, hey, did you see what Eric just posted? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's what we should do for labels, right? And she said, yes. And so we started talking to Eric about it. And then it took a few weeks, couple months, and we kind of hashed some stuff out, figured out what we were going to kind of go with. And then we've just kind of been slowly in the process of doing rebrands. The can you have in front of you with the face melter, that kind of started as a brewery only series. And originally we had Jared did that work for us and called it the Cosmic Knot, and it was basically a giant skull inside of a astronaut suit. And so what we decided was, like, if we're redoing all this stuff, like, let's take that because it's been a really popular image for us here. We were like, hey, let's kind of take this and take it up to the next level. So with the face melter, that's kind of we're using that as what we're calling our artist series. So while Eric did the first one for us, we're going to be releasing those every other month, and it'll be different friends. We have a lot of friends that are tattooers. It'll be a different one of our friends' interpretation of that image every time, and it'll be a new beer that we collaborate with the artist on every time. So, Eric
Very cool.
Eric Anderson. All my friends are skeletons on Instagram. But yeah, we've just kind of gone in this whole 180-degree direction on all these labels. Yeah.
Good stuff.
And they look good. Yeah.
Sam, I'm going to make a big jump here because
awesome.
there's something I definitely want to talk about.
Yeah.
A style of beer that I'm not personally familiar with. And we were just talking earlier about, is there anything missing from Georgia from the beer scene?
Yeah.
Maybe this is it, and I just didn't know
could be it. Yes.
But is it pronounced Dampf beer?
Dampf
beer.
Dampf
Tell
beer.
us about Dampf beer.
Yeah. So this is an idea that I stole from some of my friends. A long time ago, when I was still at Nebraska Brewing, I don't remember where we were going, but we were driving through Des Moines. My good friend Eric Sorensen was still at the Rock Bottom Brew Pub there. There's a whole bunch of dudes that he used to work with at Rock Bottom, and they're a lot of my friends, and they're all oddly competitive with each other. So he was like, hey, you got to try this Dampf beer. And I was like, I don't even know what that is, right? And so he poured it for me. I drank it, and I was like, whoa. And it just blew my mind. And I was like, how'd you know about this, and what made you do this? And so at that time, Todd Hogg was still at Surly. Todd was a Rock Bottom brewer at one point. And he was like, well, I basically had to show Todd what's up. And I was like, okay, cool.
Tell him how it's done.
You got to do it. Yeah.
So then he explained to me kind of the style of the beer. And I mean, really, the long and the short story of it is it's essentially kind of like it'd be like a German pale ale, but it's fermented with Hefeweizen yeast.
Okay.
So due to availability and taxation, when the whole Hefeweizen boom happened, rural Bavarian breweries didn't necessarily have access to wheat. It's kind of like the first hype beer thing, right? So instead of making a beer with malted barley and with malted wheat, these rural and small breweries in the forest started making the Dampf beer. So it's 100% barley malt version of the Hefeweizen, basically. These beers eventually came to the United States, and it's now called the California Common. And instead of using the Hefeweizen yeast that they would have used in Germany, the California brewers were using the ale strains, hybrid strains that have now become what's in the California Common. I first made this beer. It was always kind of in the back of my mind after I had tasted Eric's. And when I was still homebrewing and doing pilot beers for this, I just had inventory of ingredients so I could just brew whatever kind of came to mind. I was getting ready to brew a Hefeweizen, and I had the yeast, I had all the malt and the hops ready to go. And that week, Surly launched here in Nebraska. And I had gone down to my friend Matt's bar, Happy Raven, which sadly just closed a couple weeks ago. And part of the launch package that Surly sent down here was Todd's Domp beer. And I saw it up on the board and immediately ordered it. And I said, I guess I'm brewing a Domp beer tomorrow instead of a Hefeweizen. And it was just so good, and it's so unique, and it's so different from everything that I've ever had anywhere, that we just knew that we should do it. The first time I brewed this beer was really early on when we opened, and I was shocked how well it went over. When it went away, I mean, people were just, when's it coming back? When are you doing it? Now
That's
we do it a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it's like, we're one of maybe 6 or 8 breweries in the country that have ever brewed one of these. We're maybe one of, you can't even get this beer in Bavaria. So, it's really a weird historical style. It's really not I had a guy drive up from Kansas City because he had it on Untapped as I want this. And he got an alert that we put it on Untapped and drove up from Kansas City just to tick it.
There you go, man. You get some of those guys are dedicated. It's one I'd try. I knew I'd heard of this time. I'd heard the name before.
I've heard it before,
but didn't know.
Yeah.
Sam Riggins, Cosmic Eye Brewing, Lincoln, Nebraska. Go Cornhuskers. Beef and corn and beer, right?
All day.
All day. Sam, thanks for joining us. If people want to keep up with what's going on at your brewery, what's going to be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, Instagram, we're at cosmiceye.beer. Facebook's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, those are our 2 main social media outlets. If you want to follow me, I'm mostly on Instagram, and I'm just at Slayer Sam.
Easy enough.
Excellent.
Sam, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys. It's awesome.
Absolutely. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Smalls, always good to see you. Thanks for hanging with the crew.
Anytime.
Join us next week. We're going to be talking to a local brewery, man. We're bringing it local with Printers Ale. For more craft beer info, follow us online. And we're Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers.
Clear for the
Sam, hang for just a second. Let me wrap up online here. Facebook, YouTube, thanks for joining us, except for the person posting porn spam in our comments. Thanks to everyone else. We appreciate it.
Can you send me those links?
We spammed them out, Sam. Sorry. But y'all, we'll be back next week in studio with Printers Ale here. Some local love. We haven't talked to them in a minute.
Yeah,
so
not in a
they're
minute.
just far enough out of the Atlanta metro that we don't get to them that often. But
correct.
We're gonna have them here. That's the way we do it. Have them bring the beer here is the easy way for us.
It's easier for us. Yeah.
Yeah. But y'all have a good week, and we will see you next Wednesday.